Have you ever found yourself carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders? That constant feeling that every choice, every moment, every interaction needs to be perfect, controlled, managed with absolute precision, as if your life were a complex mathematical equation where a single mistake could trigger catastrophic consequences. This pressure you put on yourself, this feeling that everything depends solely on your decisions, your control, your ability to orchestrate every aspect of your existence. It's exhausting, isn't it? Your body tense, your mind in perpetual vigilance, your heart clenched in a constant state of alert. As if you've been holding your breath for years on end, afraid to let it out and let life simply happen. This perpetual tension manifests itself in your body, not just as a passing discomfort, but as an invisible prison you've built yourself. Your shoulders perpetually high, your jaw clenched, your stomach knotted in knots that refuse to unravel, your mind restless, even during sleep, planning, analyzing, fearing, controlling. You feel it when you wake up still tired, when your body screams for rest even after 8 hours of sleep. You feel it when anxiety becomes your most faithful companion, more constant than the very air you breathe. You feel it when joy becomes a rare visitor in a life dominated by seriousness, by the weight of self-imposed responsibility, as if there were an incessant voice in your conscience repeating that life is a serious test, a rigorous examination, and you cannot afford to make mistakes. And so, day after day, you continue to carry this invisible burden, convinced that this is how it should be, that this is how everyone lives, that there is no other way. I deeply understand this journey, this feeling that letting go of control means failure, that allowing life to flow naturally is an act of irresponsibility. I know intimately the fear that whispers that, if you're not in control, chaos will reign. For decades, working with thousands of people around the world, I've witnessed how this need for control turns into a self-imposed prison, a form of suffering we mistakenly believe is the right path. I see in your eyes the same thing I've seen in so many others, the exhaustion of a constant battle against the natural flow of existence, against the very nature of reality. You are not alone in this silent struggle, this exhaustion that is rarely shared but that saps your vitality daily. What would unfold in your life if you could, even for a moment, let go of the reins? If you could understand that the universe is not your enemy waiting for your slip to crumble, but rather a collaborative force, an intelligence far beyond our limited comprehension, working in harmony when we allow it to flow, there is a space between obsessive control and reckless abandon, a sacred territory where conscious surrender becomes not an act of weakness, but the deepest expression of wisdom. A place where we don't take life too seriously, not because it doesn't matter, but precisely because it is too precious to be lived in a perpetual state of tension and fear. In this shared moment, I will guide you through a transformative journey toward the art of conscious surrender, not a passive or defeatist surrender, but a profound realignment with the natural flow of existence. You will discover how letting go can become your greatest strength, how lightness can coexist with purpose, and how not taking life so seriously can paradoxically open the doors to a much more meaningful and fulfilling existence. You will learn concrete practices to identify where excessive control is blocking your vital energy and how to transform these blockages into portals of expansion. Most importantly, you will begin to experience, perhaps for the first time in a long time, the sensation of living in harmony with the flow of life, without the constant exhaustion of resistance. Have you ever stopped to observe how nature operates in perfect harmony without apparent effort? A tree doesn't force its growth. A flower doesn't worry about whether it's beautiful enough. A river doesn't question its path. Nature exists in a state of conscious surrender to the flow of life, and we, as an integral part of that same nature, have this same capacity encoded within our being. The problem is that our conditioned mind has created layers and layers of resistance to this natural state, convinced that we must fight against the current to survive, when, in fact, our greatest strength lies precisely in the ability to flow with the universal intelligence that permeates all existence. Conscious surrender begins with understanding a fundamental truth that all spiritual traditions recognize. You are not only the navigator of the vessel, but also the ocean it sails upon. There is a part of you that transcends personality, fears, and everyday concerns, a witness consciousness that observes without judgment, that remains unaffected even amidst life's most intense storms. When you connect with this deeper dimension of your being, surrender ceases to be an abstract concept and becomes a living experience, a form of embodied wisdom that radically transforms your relationship with every moment of existence. Think for a moment about all the worries that occupied your mind over the past year. How many of them actually materialized? And of those that did, how many were you able to resolve despite all the anticipatory suffering? A mind conditioned by fear keeps us in a constant state of vigilance against threats that exist only in potential, consuming precious energy that could be channeled into creation, connection, and joy. Not taking life so seriously doesn't mean abdicating responsibility, but rather recognizing that much of our suffering is self-generated by a distorted relationship with reality, by a compulsive need to control the uncontrollable. Do you feel like you're always swimming against the current, as if every achievement requires a disproportionate amount of effort, as if life were an endless series of obstacles to overcome? I'd like to invite you to share this experience in the comments. How have excessive control and extreme seriousness affected your quality of life and vital energy? Type in the comments, "I learned to flow with life when I let go of excessive control." Your story not only releases this experience from your system, but also creates a healing field for everyone going through similar challenges. Right now, thousands of people are watching this video, feeling alone in their struggle, believing they are the only ones feeling this weight. Your comment may be exactly what someone needs to read today, to feel that they are not alone, that there is a path beyond obsessive control and constant fear. There is profound wisdom in knowing the difference between what we can influence and what is beyond our control. Eastern spiritual traditions have recognized this distinction for millennia through the concept of non-resistance. In Taoist philosophy, the ideal of Wu Wei, often translated as non-action or effortless action, represents a state of being where our actions flow naturally in harmony with the Tao, the natural way of existence. It is not passivity, but rather a form of engagement that recognizes and aligns with the greater forces of life, like water, which, in its apparent fragility, is capable of shaping mountains through its fluid persistence and its ability to adapt to any container or obstacle. Cosmic consciousness, that infinite intelligence that orchestrates the movements of the planets and the blossoming of every flower, also flows through you. Every cell in your body is an expression of this universal intelligence. Every heartbeat a testament to your participation in this cosmic dance. When you resist this flow, when you try to impose your limited will on the infinite wisdom of the universe, you create an energetic dissonance that manifests as suffering, illness, and exhaustion. The law of attraction, so often misunderstood, operates precisely at this level. What you resist persists. What you embrace transforms. Your relationship with life determines how life relates to you. Imagine for a moment that your life is a river. When you are in a state of conscious surrender, you become like a skilled navigator who understands the currents, respects the nature of the water, and uses these forces to your advantage. You don't fight the river. You don't try to make it flow in the opposite direction. Instead, you develop the wisdom to discern when to actively paddle and when to simply let the current carry you. This is the essence of non-resistance, not passive capitulation, but active and conscious participation in the flow of life. The conditioned mind fears surrender because it confuses it with loss, failure, and weakness. But the surrender I speak of is actually a higher form of intelligence. It's recognizing that you are part of a system much larger and wiser than your individual mind can comprehend. It's like a cell that, instead of trying to operate independently of the body, recognizes its interconnectedness with all other systems and allows the wisdom of the larger organism to guide it. Paradoxically, it is in this surrender that we find our true freedom, our authentic power. A powerful practice for cultivating this state of conscious surrender is meditation, not as a technique to improve yourself or make you more productive, but as a sacred space where you can directly experience this deeper dimension of your being, where struggle ceases and the natural peace of your essence can emerge. Begin by simply observing your breath, without trying to control or modify it in any way. Observe how your body breathes on its own, without your intervention. Feel the natural expansion and contraction of your chest, the air flowing in and out through your nostrils. This simple observation begins to shift your identity from controller to observer, from resistance to acceptance. As you become more comfortable with this practice, you can expand your awareness to include physical sensations, thoughts, and emotions, observing them with the same quality of non-judgmental attention. You will begin to notice how these phenomena arise and pass by their own nature, without needing your interference, like clouds crossing the sky without altering the nature of the sky itself. This witnessing awareness is the gateway to the direct experience that you are not just the content of your consciousness, but consciousness itself, that infinite space in which all experience occurs. A mindfulness exercise that can be integrated into your daily routine is the practice of conscious yes. When a challenging situation arises, instead of immediately resisting or trying to control it, try internally saying yes to what is happening, not as resignation, but as acknowledgement of reality as it is in this moment. Observe what happens in your body, your mind, and your energy field when you replace automatic resistance with conscious acceptance. Often, it is precisely in this space of acceptance that creative solutions emerge, new paths reveal themselves, and unexpected transformations occur. The connection between body, mind, and spirit becomes clear when we observe the physical effects of excessive control. Chronic muscle tension, shallow breathing, digestive disorders, and insomnia are all somatic expressions of a mind constantly resisting the natural flow of life. When you begin to practice conscious surrender, these patterns begin to dissolve. The body, freed from the need to be constantly on alert, finds its natural rhythm of functioning. Breathing deepens, the digestive and immune systems operate more efficiently, and sleep becomes more restful. It's as if every cell sighs with relief, finally free to perform its natural function without the constant interference of a mind dominated by fear. One of the greatest obstacles to practicing surrender is our cultural conditioning that values control, domination, and conquest at any cost. From an early age, we are programmed to believe that our worth is directly related to our ability to bend the world to our will, to accumulate achievements, to prove our worth through strength and determination. This paradigm, while it has its place and value in certain circumstances, becomes toxic when applied indiscriminately to all dimensions of existence. How can we reinterpret this conditioning? How can we recognize the wisdom in surrender without feeling like we are betraying fundamental values? The answer lies in understanding that true strength lies not in rigidity, but in flexibility. Like bamboo, which, despite its apparent fragility, survives the most intense storms precisely because it knows how to bend to the wind. Or like water, which, in its fluidity, shapes the hardest rocks through its gentle persistence. Conscious surrender is not a denial of action, but rather a wiser and more sustainable way of acting. It is the understanding that our actions are most effective when they arise from a state of inner alignment, from connection with our intuitive wisdom, rather than from reactivity based on fear and the need for control. A specific technique for overcoming resistance to the concept of surrender is what I call the 3-day experiment. For 3 consecutive days, commit to observing, without judgment, every moment you find yourself in a state of resistance or over-control. Don't try to immediately change these patterns. Simply develop awareness of how they operate in your daily life. Observe the thoughts, physical sensations, and emotions that accompany this state. On the 4th day, begin experimenting in low-stakes situations, with what happens when you consciously choose surrender over resistance. Perhaps in a traffic jam, instead of getting frustrated and resisting the situation, you could use this time to practice mindful breathing, to enjoy music, to simply be present. Observe the results of this change in approach without specific expectations, just with genuine curiosity. The lightness that comes from conscious surrender is not a denial of life's seriousness, but rather a deeper understanding of its true nature. When we are not constantly fighting reality, when we are not wasting energy on useless resistance, a natural quality of joy, appreciation, and gratitude begins to permeate our experience. The ancient Taoist sages spoke of finding the middle path between rigidity and abandonment, between obsessive control and neglect. It is in this dynamic balance that we discover the art of living with purpose and lightness simultaneously. Have you ever watched young children play? They are completely absorbed in the present moment, fully engaged in the activity, unconcerned with the outcome or external judgment. There is a profound lesson in this natural capacity for presence, for surrendering completely to the flow of experience. Somehow, throughout our development, many of us have lost this innate ability to simply be present, to find joy in the process rather than obsessively fixating on the results. The practice of conscious surrender is, in many ways, a return to this natural wisdom that is our original state. One of the most common questions I receive is, how can I practice surrender without becoming passive or irresponsible? It's a legitimate concern that reveals a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of true surrender. Conscious surrender is not an escape from responsibility, but rather a more effective way to fulfill it. When you act from a state of inner alignment, of connection with your intuitive wisdom, your actions naturally become more precise, more effective, and more aligned with the greater good. It's like the difference between swimming against the current, exhausting your strength with minimal results, or learning to skillfully navigate it by using the current's own strength to your advantage. Another common resistance to the practice of surrender stems from fear of the unknown. The conditioned mind prefers a familiar hell to an unknown paradise. There is a perverse comfort in our familiar struggles, in our habitual patterns of suffering. Releasing control means entering uncharted territory, where old references no longer apply. This fear is natural and must be honored as part of the process. Transformation rarely occurs in a comfortable, linear progression. More often, it involves periods of disorientation, confusion, and not knowing. These periods, though uncomfortable, are fertile ground for growth, for the expansion of consciousness, for the birth of new possibilities. Surrender also involves an aspect of trust, not necessarily in an external deity, but in the intrinsic intelligence of life, in the wisdom of the evolutionary process that generated all the complexity and beauty we observe in the universe. It is the understanding that you are not alone on your journey, that there is a much greater collaborative force operating through you and around you. This trust is not blind or naive, but based on close observation of nature's patterns, on direct experience of how life often leads us to higher places than our limited minds could ever imagine. I'd like to share a parable that beautifully illustrates the power of conscious surrender. A Zen master was with his disciples on the banks of a river when they spotted a scorpion struggling in the water, about to drown. The master immediately reached out to save the creature, which, acting on instinct, poked him. The master's hand automatically retracted in pain, but he again tried to rescue the scorpion, only to be stung once more. After several attempts and several stings, a disciple asked, "Master, why do you keep trying to save the scorpion when it clearly doesn't want to be saved and only causes you pain?" The master calmly replied, "The scorpion's nature is to sting, and my nature is to save. Why should I deny my nature just because it acts according to its nature?" This story perfectly illustrates the freedom that comes from acting from our true nature, rather than reacting to external circumstances. The master wasn't trying to change the scorpion or resist its nature. He simply remained true to his own compassionate nature, regardless of the consequences. This is the essence of conscious surrender. Not a denial of action, but a form of action that arises from our deepest being, from our true nature, regardless of the results or external reactions. As you progress on your journey of conscious surrender, you'll begin to notice subtle shifts in your daily experience. Situations that would previously trigger automatic reactions of stress and anxiety begin to be met with a new quality of presence and acceptance. Those around you may notice a shift in your energy, a quality of calm and clarity that naturally inspires and uplifts. Your relationships become more authentic, less dominated by rigid expectations, and more open to the beauty of shared experience as it naturally unfolds. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, nor is it a linear or predictable process. There will be moments of profound clarity and liberation, followed by periods when old patterns of control and resistance resurface with full force. It's important to approach this process with self-compassion, recognizing that conscious surrender is an ongoing practice, not a final destination to be reached. Each time you catch yourself in a state of resistance and consciously choose to return to surrender, you strengthen this new neurological pattern, this new way of relating to life. An often overlooked aspect of surrender practice is the fundamental role of the body. Our culture tends to overvalue the mind, treating the body as a passive vehicle to be commanded and controlled. But the body possesses its own intelligence, its own wisdom, which is often suppressed by our tendency to live exclusively in the mind. Practices such as yoga, tai chi, qigong, and other forms of mindful movement can be powerful tools for reconnecting with this bodily wisdom, for rediscovering the natural flow of energy that is our original state. Try, for example, dedicating a few minutes daily to a simple intuitive movement practice, without predetermined choreography, without expectations of how it should feel or look. Simply allow your body to move the way it naturally wants to move in that moment. Observe the sensations, the emotions, and the insights that arise when you allow your body to lead, rather than imposing control on your mind. This simple practice can reveal layers of tension and resistance you didn't even know you were carrying, opening space for a freer flow of vital energy throughout your being. Surrender also has a profound spiritual dimension, regardless of one's religious or philosophical tradition. In Christian contemplative traditions, the practice of kenosis, the emptying of the ego to make room for the divine presence, echoes this same principle. In Sufism, the annihilation of the limited ego is the gateway to the direct experience of divine unity. In Buddhism, non-attachment and the understanding of the impermanence of all phenomena lead to liberation from suffering. In all these traditions, we find the recognition that it is precisely in the dissolution of our rigid egoic boundaries, in the surrender of our limited identities, that we find our deepest connection with the sacred, with the ultimate mystery of existence. As we conclude our journey together in this shared moment, I would like to leave you with a final reflection on the transformative power of conscious surrender. Imagine your life as a dance with the universe. In each moment, you have the choice to resist the natural movement of this dance, attempting to impose your limited will, or to surrender to the flow, contributing your unique expression while remaining in harmony with the whole. Surrender does not diminish your individuality. On the contrary, it allows your true essence to flourish freely without the distortions of fear and control. Remember that not taking life too seriously doesn't mean abdicating responsibility or commitment to your growth and purpose. It means freeing yourself from unnecessary tension, excessive self-importance, and the illusion that you need to carry the universe on your shoulders. It means recognizing the playful aspect of existence, the quality of lightness that naturally emerges when we are in alignment with the flow of life. As the great Indian sage Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj said, "Wisdom is not a matter of knowledge, but of unlearning 1,000 falsehoods." I want to express my deep gratitude for sharing this moment with me. The fact that you are here, opening yourself to these reflections, is in itself an act of courage, a step toward a lighter, more aligned, and more fulfilled life. Your presence on this journey is a testament to your willingness to transcend the limits of conditioning, to explore new possibilities of being and participating in the world. I recognize and honor this courage, this commitment to your own evolution. If you resonated with these reflections, if something here struck a chord in your heart, I'd like to invite you to continue this journey with us. This channel is a space dedicated to the ongoing exploration of paths to a more conscious life, more aligned with our true nature. Each video is an opportunity to deepen our understanding, to expand our awareness, to remember essential truths that we may have forgotten amid the pressures and distractions of modern life. By subscribing to this channel, you're not only guaranteeing access to new content, but also joining a global community of seekers, of kindred souls, who share a commitment to spiritual awakening and the evolution of consciousness. There is immense power in this connection, in this collective field of intention and attention. Together, we create a space for transformation that benefits not only ourselves individually, but also contributes to the elevation of planetary consciousness as a whole. The following videos will address specific aspects of the practice of conscious surrender, offering concrete tools for integrating this wisdom into all aspects of your daily life. From meditation techniques and bodywork practices to approaches for transforming your relationships, your career, and your relationship with time and material resources, each video is designed as a progressive step in this journey of transformation, building on the foundations we've established today. By becoming part of this community, you'll have access to additional resources that will support your practice, including guided meditations, reflection exercises, and opportunities to connect with other practitioners around the world. Like a drop of water joining the ocean without losing its essence, you'll be part of something bigger than yourself as you continue your unique journey of self-discovery and fulfillment. The decision to enroll is, in itself, a small act of surrender, a movement toward openness, receptivity, and flow. Like all great rivers that eventually find their way to the ocean, allow your spiritual journey to find a channel here that leads you ever deeper into the vast ocean of consciousness that is your true nature. Enroll now, and let's continue this transformative journey together, step by step, moment by moment, in the eternal dance of existence.